Never will ever you are. Right, hello guys, welcome back to Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. We are playing more Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. So much Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom that you wouldn't even believe that we're playing so much Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. Wait, where did I put a remote? There it is. Wait, hang on, hang on, hang on, hang on. Where are we? Oh, that's what killed me. Come here, you son of a bitch. I don't even want to fight you. Better stop being a poo. Oh, I love it. This is a great place to have a big old fight. Right. Yeah. Wait! Oh wait, did you just see that shit? It fucking... Not only when he threw it, did it like teleport through the air to my position, exactly, so it was going to miss me. But it immediately turned into wood as well. Oh, I don't know if I can be asked for this shit. I might just ignore it. I'm gonna open up one of these bad boys. God, I'm just... So we're having a barbecue today, and in terms of, like, desserts afterwards, just, casual eatings, whilst the sun is blazing the way it is at the moment, I thought, you know what? I'm gonna munch down on some raspberry ripple ice cream. 'Cause I like the stuff. It's nice. Tasty, nom nom, and then I was like, what am I gonna put with it? Because I like ice cream by itself. I absolutely do. But, sometimes you wanna, like, maybe add a little something to it, Cheeky summer and all, why not? So we've got some raspberry roulade as well. Very tasty stuff. Very, very tasty stuff. There we go. And then I put like strawberry sauce on top of it, whipped cream, just making like the world's like most overdone dessert ever. And then following this, I crack open a can of raspberry ripple cider. Because, yeah, there is no such thing as overkill. These hitboxes. That was one of the most like gratifying things in the last stream. Like, just asserting the fact that I'm not going crazy over the hitboxes in this game, and we actually had like consistent visual evidence that even when something is in one place, that doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to react sensibly. Thank God for one arrow, right. But yeah, it's like, I'm glad that I now have legitimate visual evidence that in terms of like hitboxes and event triggers, this game is dodgy as fuck. Yeah, I'm not crazy. Woo! Right, okay, number of things. What do I want to do? Was that a shrine I placed a thing on? Maybe. Yeah, I was up on a hill actually, so entirely possible. We're gonna walk over. We're gonna walk over because then that means that as I do a little mooch along the way, is there any shrines nearby? Well, I'm happy to bump into it. No, and also, no, we're good. I was gonna think about getting those design things. You know, the fashion, the fashion armor and stuff like that whilst we're out and about. But I think I'm all right at the moment. Oh, I don't have any wheels no more. That's okay. I should probably that should be a priority of mine actually. I think the thing is about everything involving the sky at the moment is I kind of feel like if I was gonna rev up to do it at the moment, like explore the sky thoroughly, which it still feels so weird that they added like 2 entire domains into this game, and they're both barely explored during the main quests. Like if I was designing this game, it's like, yeah, we got this brand new section of this game that's gonna focus entirely on that could have gone hard, but we've got this entire section of the game that's going to focus. Fucking word, Scott. We've got this entire section of the game that focuses on these new domains. You know, we've got the sky and we've got the depths below, and it's awesome. It's amazing. You know, we've really put a lot of effort into it. However, in terms of the main quest, you know, the thing that a lot of people are going to be doing when they first play this game, because it's the incentive to do a lot of the mechanics, should be, anyway. That's normally what a campaign is for. But regardless, yeah, we're gonna feature the sky bit at the start. We're gonna have it be 2 temples that you can very easily use like Zonai equipment to get up to, bypassing the point of endangering the skies by itself. It's definitely like 100% one of those things where it's definitely 100% one of those things where it's like, okay, at nauseam I can like praise a lot of the implementation of the mechanics in this game and talk about how, you know, how great they are just for existing, you know, not just like being particularly in depth, but the fact that they thought, let's do something creative with this title. Great stuff. Big ol' thumbs up from me. And then they just go, okay, yeah, but let's not actually like incentivize the player to use any of this stuff, especially not in the main story of the game. And it is one of those things as well where it's like, okay, yes, it's not that they don't use it at all, they do use it, but the depths and everything involving the sky, they're used about as like minimally, you get what I mean, as minute as possible. There we go, that's a better term for it. Like, in terms of the actual, I don't want to call it like a narrative structure, but in terms of like the campaign structure of this game, you only ever have to go to the sky twice, excluding the beginning, because you're forced into that. You are just there. Like that's not a And that's not like an inherent. That's not like an inherent thumbs up because when you do the start of the game, it's very similar to the Great Plateau at the start of Breath of the Wild, but the actual sky element is it's only used as a gimmick twice for like less than a minute overall, right at the start of the game. The idea that you have to jump out of the Room of Awakening and go down to the ground. Great stuff. Thumbs up. Love that idea. It gives you a really great scope. A really good sort of preview of the scope of what's to come with the sky sections. Awesome. And then you do the tutorial side of things on the Great Sky Island, and none of it involves actually navigating from Sky Island to Sky Island, or like using the Sky Islands in any particularly unique way whatsoever. It's just that it's an aesthetical difference at that point. And then right at the end, you dive off all the way back down to Hyrule. Once again, really great visual, gives you a really great sort of visual in terms of like what you can expect when exploring Hyrule and the sky together. There is this transitional period between going up and down, between levels, and that is like I think that this game executes the delivery of that flawlessly. The issue is incentive and mechanical execution. So the actual transition itself, like physically moving between areas, great stuff, beautiful. Like it's in my mind, it like just on a subjective basis, it sort of checks off a tick box that I've had for ages when it comes to a bunch of video games. This idea of like the scary abyss that looms above you, just space as it is. The idea, it's like, okay, how can we implement like a really big skybox in a game like this? And I think that they do that brilliantly. But once again, just having it is half the battle of it, half the half of what I can praise about, because the other half should be its implementation is the game overall. Like what's there for me to look at everything that's going on at the moment with the sky sections and go, okay, so I can't get into it narratively because narratively, like, I don't know what anyone wants me to say. There isn't a reason for it. It's just here because it looks cool. And it's like, okay then, um, mechanically, like how would you interact with it on a regular basis? And that's the thing. Like interacting with the sky in this game is a player's choice thing, and you'd think by default that's like, oh, that's kind of good, isn't it? That should, like, on paper, it sounds kind of good to leave it entirely up to the player where they want to go and what they want to do. But what you're doing in the process is you're also giving the player the indirect option to completely ignore it. And I know it should be direct option, the player is choosing to ignore it. But if they get so caught up in Hyrule Below and then they end up doing, like, the Water Temple and areas like that and just sticking to doing the minimalistic, like only the required stuff of the sky sections, it becomes a joke in the long run. Bring peace to Hyrule Field. Yeah, sure, okay, I'll do this. I'll say this, like before I get back onto the point that I was making, dynamic quests are pretty cool in this game. I do kind of like the way people just walk up to you, and like the Yiga clan, as much as I'm a bit iffy about them in terms of combat, because there only seems to be like 3 or 4 variants of the Yiga clan and they all do the same attacks. But I do like the way they dynamically weave themselves into your game. Anyway, yeah, back onto what I was saying. Um, wouldn't it be hilarious if I already cleared out this area? That's another thing, actually. I do like the fact that you can complete a number of side objectives um, before they're actually activated, so you can just, like, find these really cool little temples and caves, or these pieces of equipment and items contextual to side quests before you actually encounter the side quests themselves. And then when you actually encounter the side quests and activate them, it's kind of really cool, because then you're there afterwards like, oh, there's purpose for that. I can put one and two together, and, you know, I'm not it's proving that there are sections of this game where I'm not restricted by an objective tag in a logbook. You know, you for side objectives, you can just go out of your way to do all this stuff by yourself. You do not need the incentive of a quest description to get you going there. And that's great, but it's like the reverse for the actual main quests. Like, you can't do anything in the main quest without being told to. Go find a temple. Oh, that's cool. I wonder what this area is. You know, just exploring it dynamically. By yourself, you might have seen the temple in the sky, not even know that's the water temple, and then go over to it and explore it that way. And then when you go there, the game's like, no, fuck off, you can't do anything yet. You can't do anything yet. You have to activate the quest first. And I'm like, what? Like, the water temple's always going to be the choice example of that, because that really annoyed me when I went up there. That's my like, the whole experience of, like, well, that's my first experience of something like that happening. In like the brutality of it as well. Like, I found this really cool, unique way of making my way all the way up to the water temple. And I was investigating it because it looked cool, went all the way up there, and the game locked me out of doing absolutely anything because I hadn't activated the corresponding quest. Don't let me go into the water temple then. Like, period. You know, don't just show me everything that could be done with the water temple. Just lock it out completely if you don't want me to do it. You know, have it encased in a giant box or something like that. I know it sounds like a horrible alternative, but like, the reality of the situation, the thing that really feels like should have been the alternative, the step forward with this game in particular, is literally just allow the player to do everything from the get-go. You know, don't restrain them to the Great Sky Tower right from the beginning of the game. Don't do that. You know, each time whenever I jumped off a cliff, whenever I jumped off the side right at the start of the game at the Great Sky Tower, the Great Sky Island rather, whenever I jumped off a cliff right at the start of that section, it counted as a death. Now if I go there and jump off, it counts as me gliding down. It counts as me diving. It's like, just let me do things at my own pace. Let me explore the world and properly interact with it the way I want to, if you really are going to be so bold about boasting how non-linear this title is, and how open every aspect of it is. It just feels like such a letdown to be slapped in the face for trying something dynamic. When the side quests are, like, mechanically speaking, the side quests are great. The side quests are everything I wanted from the rest of this game. It's just that the issue with the side quests in particular is that they only lock specific specific mechanics down to specific areas. So, like, for example, making a race car, like specifically a race car for a race event, sounds awesome, and it is. And I can do that dynamically outside of the race event, but I very much doubt that outside of Tawny Town there's going to be a reason to make a race car other than for my own subjective desires, you know. I'm doing it because it looks cool. I'm making Zonai devices and equipment because they are a fun addition, a fun thing to interact with, but like they don't reward me for their use. The actual incentive for using them is minimal. And as I've been saying for hours and hours and hours and hours about this title at this point, I really do think that when it comes down to me typing up my review for this game, I am. It's purely gonna be me referring to incentive more so than anything else. Like, I'll talk about the mechanics as in depth as I possibly can. You know, several playthroughs under my belt. I'm really exploring this. It's definitely going to be about a year before I can actually make a review on this game. There's no doubt about that. Largely because I've got all the other Zelda games to finish off first in terms of typing up the reviews for them. But by the time I get to that, by the time I get to that, I think that incentive is going to be the takeaway from this title. It's going to be the thing where I can be like, yeah, you know what? As much as I love a lot of the mechanics in this game, I can't lie when I say that the actual incentive behind me doing any of them is at an all-time minimum in terms of like objectivity. You reckon that'll be enough? Maybe I'll put another one there just in case. I don't like these quests as well. But like this isn't really a side quest, it's just a dynamic thing that happens on repeat. But like the only reward I get out of doing this are rupees, a food item, and a material. Which is fine, but yeah, a bolt gun is pretty good, to be honest. I played nearly all of the game and watched some reviews, and they said something about it being a direct sequel to Warhammer 1. I've played it now. I've actually played through Bolt Gun. I didn't mean to play it through all in one go. It's only like 3 hours long, and I played it through in hard, and then I've gone back through on the difficulty afterwards. I like it a lot. I do. I think there are definitely some level design issues with the title. And as much as I like the pixel effects, it is a bit over the top. I don't mean like gratuitous, because I don't care about that. Like, the more blood you want to pile on, it's Warhammer. Give it to me. Blood for the blood god and all that stuff. But I mean, there were certain times when you're put in like arenas where I felt like it was more of a distraction rather than anything else. I can actually strategically place where enemies were confidently. But in terms of actual gameplay, running, you know, like intense strategic running and gunning, yeah, I loved it. It was great. It was like a mixture between Ultra Kill and... I'm not going to say Doom, because I know that seems to be the reference of choice with bolt gun at the moment. I think that that's more of like an aesthetical thing. You know, it looks like in terms of, you know, you're collecting keys, going from room to room, clearing out enemies. There are secrets about the place, but I wouldn't necessarily say that it resembles Doom in a gameplay sense. It's definitely more in line with Ultra Kill. A bit tamer, maybe. But yeah, the level design is the major thing that I've got a little bit of a question mark over. I need to play a little bit more before I get a proper opinion on that. It's less to do with navigation, and it's more to do with my confusion over where certain things are placed. Naturally, when you create a game like that, you sort of want the main route to be the obvious one. You know, you wanted it to be almost like your straight line, your something along those lines. But Quake, yeah, that's actually a really great comparison. But yeah, it's sort of like it was something I got used to level design wise. Um, it's not entirely obvious where things are from the get-go and the way they loop around. But then you do have to remember that it's Warhammer 40k. Like, the world that they are dealing with is very, like, monolithic in terms of design. And it would be extremely hard to change things up as a result. You're dealing with these giant-ass corridors. You're dealing with these, insanely tall battle arenas with staircase after staircase snaking around the place. It's awesome to like look at visually, but I think in terms of how it melds with actual gameplay, it's a mixed bag. I don't think that affects the gameplay enough for me to say that it's poor at it, because it's more like it's a minor gripe rather than anything else. I'm definitely going to have to give it a few more run-throughs before I can come up with a proper critical analysis of the title. But I like it. From what I have played, the two playthroughs that I've gone through it on the hardest difficulties, I really enjoy. If anything, I don't know if this is like sadistic, but I kind of want a harder difficulty from the game. I feel like that the bolt gun especially, I know it's trying to be this overpowered weapon because it is in 40k in general, but I really just kind of like I'm shredding through things constantly. You know, it's sort of like the most I feel challenged is when I'm being swamped with enemies rather than when I am having to actually deal with like the telegraphing of a singular enemy. That being said, though, I don't think the telegraphing's bad either. That's normally one of the things I look out for in a game like that. You want to make sure that every enemy in the game has its own form of like what's the term I want to use here? Like every enemy in the game has their own form of like attack pattern that you can learn and understand over time, and I think that it handles that pretty well. The more grunt type enemies in the game are probably the exception to the rule, but that's kind of why they exist. It's a sequel to Space Marine 1. That took me off guard as well, actually. I was sort of like, what, really? Like that, like not only are you dealing with a game now that's having to fit in the entire 40k lore within a very short period of time, but you're also saying that this is a sequel to a pre-existing Warhammer game, and then on top of that, it's what's the term I'm trying to use here? And then on top of that, it's having to sort of cover for the major events that happened in a separate video game. It's yeah, I was sort of like, wow, okay, this is definitely going to alienate people in terms of lore, but I wouldn't say that it's going to be like I'm trying to think of the words I want to use for this. I don't think that's going to be like entirely off-putting. Like the gameplay is going to speak for itself in a lot of cases. But yeah, my server score said Motus Pog. God, that's probably something else I would know as well. The server scroll in the game really, like, it was getting on my nerves at one point. Not dialogue-wise, I think that they handled that fairly well. Little text box in the corner, you know, you can take it or leave it, that's fine. it was more to do with the actual model, because whenever it popped up, because there are so many items in the game that glow, in terms of like saying this is a special or something like that, um, it was like, oh, okay, don't shoot the server skull, don't shoot the server skull, whatever you do. I know I shouldn't shoot the server skull, but it keeps appearing in my fucking way. I think there was also a level of like indirectness, that like ex, uh, um, accidental exploration. Is that the term I want to use? I don't think so. Sort of like I kept bumping into secrets by mistake rather than actually searching them out, and I think I got the majority of them that way. But yeah, you know, I had a lot of fun with it. The little sequel bait at the end of it has me ever so slightly worried. Um, I don't, I don't know. We're sort of getting to the point now where the expanded media for 40k is almost, I wouldn't say overkill. Back when titles like Dawn of War were out, Firewatch, stuff like that, um, it was sort of like everything was standalone. And now that we're focusing so much on trying to tell this big overarching story in between the events of all these different Warhammer video games, it's, I don't know. I don't know how I feel about it. The Chaos Terminator watching me charge my graph cannon. Fucking hell. The Terminators were insane. Like, I felt like I blinked and one appeared occasionally. I was just like, oh, okay, because when I first saw it, my brain thought, okay, considering what I know about the Marine Terminators in 40k, it's going to act as sort of like a mini boss of sorts. And then the game was like, no, it's gonna be a regular enemy that ramps up constantly, and I'm just there like, oh, okay, I guess I'll just deal with that then. Something that took me by surprise as well in regards to hitboxes in it is they actually programmed appropriate hitboxes for damage. So, like, for example, headshots deal significantly more damage than any other part of the body. It's a small thing, absolutely, but a lot of retro shooters like that genuinely tend to admit that sort of stuff. So yeah, kind of like that as well. This is gonna go poorly. I've no clue. Oh, I gotcha. Oh, okay, this is definitely not the way to do this, but I'm gonna try it anyway. Fuck it. What have I made? Oh, I thought that was gonna have to make like paddles or something like that. Nope. To do that. And then that. But yeah, in terms of like how it's built, how it continued on from the Space Marine video game, it was weird because my brain is sort of like, okay, I'm really curious with how, like, with what's going to happen in Space Marine 2 now, in terms of, like, what you can explore. Because I kind of felt like that the ending of Space Marine, minus spoilers, was going to build up the chaos side of things. Like, we were actually going to start exploring what someone who has turned chaos, what their mindset is like, rather than them just being corrupted and sort of hive-mindish. But now that this game has sort of, like, just went, oh no, yeah, that entire planet, yeah, because chaos is, like, overrunning it now, chances are we are only going to go back there in a bolt gun sequel. I'm like, oh, oh, okay then, I guess. You know what? I'll take that. I will say I'm slowly getting I'm slowly getting annoyed with all of the ultramarine shit now. Like, I guess tedium is the better word to use. I don't mind it, but it's because they're so mainstream. The plot armor of Ultra, yeah, I know, but that's sort of the thing. Like, you've got some other really interesting factions that you could explore there, and it's not to say that other games or other properties within the Warhammer series, like, they don't explore that, because they certainly do. It's more to say that the larger, more mainstream Warhammer 40k games are almost allergic to even considering the possibility of doing anything but Ultramarines at this point, and I'm yeah, I'm a bit annoyed about that. It's like, oh, come on, you know, like, there are other factions that I think it would, would be pretty cool to explore other than just the Ultramarines in every mainline game. And now we're going to get, like, the comparisons that the Ultramarines are basically a series of Doom guys or Spartans from Halo. And it's just going to make me groan even more. It's like, they visually look like them a bit. You know, they're hunky mechs, I get it. I understand where you're coming from in terms of that. But in terms of, like, what an Ultramarine actually is in comparison to, like, Doom Guy, it's a difference between dealing with Hell and Lovecraft. Chuck Norris memes were replaced with it. Yeah, 110%. I don't know. And the annoyance also stems from, like, I like the Ultramarines. I really do. I like the Space Marines in general. You know, I wish that we got more Space Hulk stuff. That was... I don't want to just say well-designed, because that gives the stigma that I think that a lot of the Space Hulk stuff in terms of, like, the extended media isn't well-designed. but it's kind of not. I would really like to explore more with the Marines that end up going the going on board Space Hulks, because it's really sort of like they are almost excluded and isolated from the war, from the bigger wars that's happening, and the result of that is like they're dealing with Lovecraftian hellish beasts, ships that are sometimes alive. It's it's kind of really fascinating. And then once they've done that, they're expected to immediately go back into war. It's like, what the fuck? I didn't mind Deathwing, you know? Deathwing was fine. It had a lot of issues, but I had fun with it. It's definitely more of a multiplayer game than anything else, because the AI does not work in that title. I mean, pretty much what I'm asking for at this point is a 40k. What about a game where you play as a dreadnought? Um, um, is that raising the bar a little too high, maybe? Because essentially what you're doing then is, what if a Space Marine was a Space Marine, but also, like, a tank, but also, like, air ballistics, but also... Like, that's what I'm saying, like, maybe something along the lines of, Command and Conquer, but for 40k. I don't know. I want to play. I want to play a 40k game where I feel like the urgency of having the Ultramarine show up, especially a Dreadnought. Like, if I was playing a game as a Dreadnought, I feel like that. Like, there's no such thing as difficulty at that point. I mean, if you put it on the hardest difficulty and you ended up really like struggling, that's probably like an immersion breaker for anyone that has experienced what Dreadnoughts are like in 40k. But yeah, I mean, I know that the ultimate dream would be something along the lines of a Total War Warhammer 40k game, which, yes, that would be. If that was announced at any point, I would probably like mentally do like 12 billion backflips without exaggeration. I would like, that is the dream, because I love Total War Warhammer. But 40k is just significantly more fascinating to me. One day. Because I know that we've got like a true Dreadnought experience, like from waking up it would turn into a nightmare and slowly go insane. Yeah, I it would probably just have to depend on genre and what narrative was given to it, because I think with something like that, you run the risk of underplaying it and overplaying it. Because I know that there's was it like Gladius? That's a 4X Warhammer 40k game. It's actually amazing to me that there are so few 4X 40k games. Like I can think of Gladius, but my brain can't go to like anything else, and that's kind of baffling for me. Baffling to me, rather. But yeah, like regardless of who you end up playing as in a 40k game, I would really love for it to show. It's one of the reasons why the Space Marine 2 trailer really piqued my interest, because it looked like that the Space Marines were actually going to be done like in a lore accurate way. You know, we were going to have a look at what the Space Marines were like to just people. And I've been waiting so long for a game to get that right. But then that's always going to be like one side of things as well. Like, you know, that's why I'm saying like I think that like a 4X game would be really good for the Warhammer 40k universe, because then you could be like, okay, like we're really struggling here. We need to send the Ultramarines. Like, reaching the point where you do that, I think that would be a really cool a really cool thing to like experience, to feel like you're at the point where you need them. Maybe there's like a penalty for doing it or something like that. I like how the sign was slowly slipping, and it's like, he's standing. It's like, yes, 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 he is. He's definitely standing. Yep. I think Battleship Armada is probably going to be the closest we get to the style of 4X game I'm thinking of. Although I haven't played a lot of Gladius, so maybe I need to maybe I need to revisit that at some point. It just sort of came and went, that game, to be fair. I don't know. It's an interesting time to be a 40k fan. There's oh, not right. There we go. Like there's lots of there's lots of like unique indie titles coming out for 40k, and I would almost like, I almost prefer it that way. I know a lot of people would be like, ah, we want a proper big AAA 40k game, and I'm here like, no, leave it alone. Like, having the independent titles means that there's a larger area for people just to do whatever the hell they want with the series, and I would always prefer that to happen. Was there ever a Warhammer horror game? Um, Space Hulk was probably the closest we got to that. I don't necessarily mean Deathwing, I mean, what was it called? Because there were like, were there like 2 or 3 Space Hulk games? I've got it somewhere. Space Hulk, Space Hulk Tactics, I think that was the one. Yeah, it was a bit creepy, I ain't gonna lie. I don't think that it was like shit my pants scary or anything like that, but like tone wise, um it had some pretty good vibes going on. that's sort of how I would picture that going. I feel like that Space Hulk is like always going to be the pinnacle of 40k horror. If they want to go off in the direction of something like that, because then you've got all your Lovecraftian shit in there. You can really mess with the player in terms of like the designs of the ships. The fact that they're like this like mutated abomination of other ships like collided together that just jump out of like black holes. Oh, that's a floaty too. That's fine. Because otherwise, the majority of the 40k world is just sort of doom and gloom. It's not really horror. It's just like depressing. That would, yeah, I would really like something like that to happen, to be fair. I didn't mean to do that. I mean, that's sort of what, I feel like that's kind of what Deathwing was going for. But it's one of those things for sure where it's like, as a single player experience, the AI was just pants, and then as a multiplayer experience, it was just too funny to take seriously. Good. But yeah, I think there's a lot you could do with 40k and horror. There we go. I think the issue for a lot of developers is that whenever they think 40k, their brain almost automatically, like, always goes to shooter. And I don't think that you have to have every 40k game be a shooter. You know, not even like a strategic shooter. You could have like a narrative-driven, resource strategic type game, something like that. I'm thinking something along the lines of like the Banner Saga series, but for 40k as well. Like there are so many cool ideas you could do with the franchise, and so few of them have actually been executed. It's one of the reasons why it makes me slightly nervous for the 40k Amazon series that's happening. A part of me is like, yeah. But I mean, I guess that just goes to show like how impactful and how strong the 40k lore is in general. I don't know. To be honest, I'm still waiting on a really good Alien game. I know people love Alien Isolation to bits, but one day a review might happen. God, I remember when typing up my review for the Alien film. That's still ongoing, by the way, because it's a super big ass video. But when I was typing up that and I was doing my research into like the general reception for it, watching any of IGN's reviews for anything was just pain. It was something like a 7-minute review, and they were making like 12 baseless points a minute. It was just horrible to watch. It's like, you're not saying anything. What the fuck are you doing? Being a psychic and Warhammer 40k is pretty bad. It's very good when you don't have a connection to what yeah. God, you see, that's another, like, you could do so much. You could do so much. And Lord forbid I actually play as an orc in a 40k game, you know? For longer than, like, a brainless cycle or something like that. Although I know that kind of takes away the point. And to be fair, I feel like playing as an orc in a 40k game would probably a horror experience. Just, you wake up one morning and then that's it, you're dead. That's how it generally plays out. Is there a well nearby? Is that what I'm missing, perhaps? There it is. Is this a Korok thing? Every psycho in the near vicinity of me when I tell them I'm soulless. Yeah. Boo. Oh, I really need to hand in these Korok seeds. Holy shit. Bye-bye. Holy shit! I knew that they could, like, overlap. I wasn't going crazy with them. Awesome. I should probably take a picture of that before it goes down. No, come on. Everyone clear. Niger. I see what they did there. Uh-huh. Aha. A cafe. Oh. I mean, I'll take it. Woo! Blop. We're nearly at 100 shrines, aren't we? 15 more, we'll be at 100. Woo! Good stuff. I do kind of wonder why this was here. Did it expect me to go through something a little bit more challenging? Oh, yep, here we go. Take your campers back. Take your campers back. Back to the supermarket. I'll be with you in a second. I'm just munching on everything that I've been given here. Get that off here. If this dude is really how we get the answers behind the Blood Moon, I ain't gonna lie, I'm gonna be fairly pissed off. Rightio. Woo! Oh, that works too. Give me your arrows. Maybe. Kaboom! Right, where was I? This way! Yeah, this game is so much better when you're just chilling to it. When you're not thinking about the main, like, narrative. When you're not going through all the bullshit stuff that happens with it. You know? It's just relaxing, it's just cool, it's just nice. It's like, oh hey, video game. Well, I didn't mean to do any of that. All that, but you know, we live. I really wish it didn't just, like, default. I just put that up like that. Nope. That's not what I wanted to do either, so that's pretty good. But if I turn it upside down... I made a horsey! Yeah. Eh. That's... Sure, why not? I mean, I do have a tool that I could use for this. Because I'm not really going to use this for anything else at this point. I mean, hell, if I just put a stabilize on every single sign, it would work, but I can't do that because the game won't let me. Because it's poo in my eyes. Ugh. Right. Okay. It nearly worked. Built a mini house by mistake, but that's fine. Yeah, that's fine. No, that's not what I wanted to do. I would do that. No, I don't know why you did that. Come on, just stay still. God, the event triggers. He's there. Yeah. That was the most over-the-top way I could have made that work. Woo! Nearly got 1,000. Woo! Take your canvas back. Take your canvas back. Back to the supermarket. Right, I'm just gonna chill for a bit now. Might stream a bit more later on. Got things I need to do. So yeah, I'll see you then. Adios.